Well, good day, my friends. It's your old pal, Jordan the Lion, and everybody has missed Jaw, I know. We have made it home, and I have got a different car. I now have wheels again. As you saw in the 66 vlog, my car died, so we've gotten that taken care of, and today I thought what would be kind of interesting was, I got to thinking, like, I've been very lucky in my life from pretty much the time that I was 18 and moved out to Los Angeles to have gotten to meet a lot of famous people. And I thought today what we would do is I would tell you some of my best and worst encounters with celebrities. Daze with Jordan the Lion and you all and the Joster. It begins right now. So first on our list is old movie star Kevin McCarthy. I got lucky. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I was 18. I moved out there to go to Musicians Institute, and really what I wanted to do was make records. I wanted to make my own albums. I wanted to do an indie band, and I wrote an EP. We recorded it, and then I wrote a full album, and it was kind of like a concept album. So I always in my head heard like a narrator on a couple of songs, and so I went to the Orange County Fair. I think it was must have been like 2000, and met Kevin McCarthy. They were having like some celebrities signing autographs there. Went up, introduced myself, told him I loved him in UHF, especially Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and then told him I loved this movie that he made a brief appearance in called Road Racers, and he got a big smile on his face. He said, you know, that was a fun thing to do, but I never saw it. And I said, really? I said, I'd be happy to get you a copy if you'd like to see it. And he said, oh, you don't have to do that. I said, it's such a cool thing. You really should see it. And I think he really kind of liked that. And I told him, I said, you know, sir, I'm an aspiring musician. I've written an album, and other than you, I can really only envision Vincent Price doing the part that I wrote. And obviously he's not here. Is there any possibility that I could talk you into it? And he just, for some reason, took pity on me and said, you know what, I'd be happy to. He said, here's my email address. Email me, we'll figure out a time that we can do it, and I'll be happy to. So as soon as I left there, I went on eBay, bought him his own copy of Road Racers, and then contacted him. And he said, would you mind sending me over the lines that you want me to say? And it was literally only 2 lines. I kind of wanted him to mimic how he did his, they're here, they're here. So I kind of had that written out and everything, and when I physically mailed him the lines, I went ahead and sent him the Road Racers movie. So he called me and he's like, I can't believe you actually did that. That was very nice of you. And we planned it. He said he was going to be doing an autograph signing at the Hollywood show and arranged a room for us. And my friend Michael and I took our recording equipment, went there and recorded Kevin McCarthy for my first album for my band Candyland Riots. That was pretty cool. He was a very nice guy. And in fact, in the end, I said, is there anything, how much do I owe you? And he said, just welcome to Hollywood. He said, you know, I hope things work out for you. Really nice guy. I remember when I called him on the phone, he said, I said, is this a bad time? Because he kind of sounded winded, and he said, no, I just rescued a sick bird from behind my trash cans and have given it a new life. And I just thought, what a Kevin McCarthy thing to say. But boy, he had a fascinating life. He was in Inner Space, UHF, all the great movies, the Twilight Zones and stuff, and then he was best friends with Montgomery Clift and was there when Montgomery Clift had his really bad accident. So Kevin McCarthy was a really cool guy to meet. Next, maybe the worst celebrity I ever met, Manny Ramirez, the baseball player. Manny Wood. How this all started was I was going to a lot of Dodger games in 2008, 2009, and Manny was having problems with the team he was on at the time, the Red Sox, and they were talking about trading him. And lo and behold, right at the last second, Manny got traded to the Dodgers. And I had tickets for the game that he was going to make his debut at, so went to the game. His shirt was already for sale. I bought his shirt. He just lit up the season. He was like the spark that everybody was hoping he would be. Just an incredible year for us. And When he came, a guy in the outfield started dressing like him and started calling himself Mini Manny or Manny Wood. And Manny liked this. So when Manny would walk out to the outfield and he'd see this guy, he'd like wave at him and like flap his glove and throw him a baseball. This guy just, for some reason, well, obviously Manny liked him because he was being him. So I ended up befriending this guy because I was sitting in the outfield, and one day, you know, I'm wearing my Manny jersey, I have all the shirts and stuff, big fan, everything, and he goes, check this out, and he shows me on his phone pictures of him and Manny, pictures of like handfuls of baseballs signed by Manny. I go, how do you do this? He goes, every day after the game, I wait for him outside, and I know his car, and he always pulls over and signs all the baseballs that I have with me. I go, really? He goes, yeah, he's really nice. So then the playoffs come around, and that guy calls me, he goes, hey, Dodgers are practicing today at 1 o'clock, so they'll probably be done at 3. Why don't you meet me over there at 2:30, and we'll wave him down, and I'll get you an autograph and everything. And so he and I are out there. Next thing you know, there's like 10 people, then 15 people waiting. And sure enough, Manny pulls up, starts signing everybody's autograph, and he signs every single person's autograph except for mine. And my friend's like, did you get him? I go, no, he like refused. I go, every time I'd put my ball there, he'd like reach around and grab somebody else's. He just like, and I was wearing his jersey. I'm like, for some reason, he just didn't want to sign for me. And he goes, man, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like looking around, all of a sudden I'm noticing I'm the only white guy, only blonde haired person. Everybody else was Latino or African American. And I'm like, that couldn't be it, but maybe, you know. And then all of a sudden, like, Manny starts to take off. Like, he had already taken off to another light, and we were walking down towards that light, and all of a sudden a car pulls up, and like a whole family sees that it's Manny, jumps out of the car, runs over to his car, and he rolls down his window, he's signing autographs again. So my friend goes, come on, come with me, he'll sign it for you if I'm there. We go up there, he signs for everybody, and again refused to sign anything for me. I couldn't believe it. And he kept looking right at me and would reach right past my ball, grab everybody else's, sign everybody else's stuff, multiple things for everybody else. Just would not sign any autographs for me. Now, I will preface this all by saying nobody is ever entitled to an autograph. He's on his free time. He doesn't have to do anything. Just like everybody that I'm going to mention in this video, nobody is ever forced to do anything. And I also won't mention anybody that I went to like a paid signing or anything, because I think you kind of expect them to be cool then. But yeah, I just thought it was crazy that he signed for everybody else but me. I eventually ran into the head of the clubhouse for the Dodgers, Mitch Poole, and because I had season tickets, I met him on the field one day, told him my story, and he said, you know what, send me everything that you want signed to here, to Dodger Stadium, to me, and I'll get it signed for you. And I sent it out on like a Monday, and on like Thursday, everything came back signed. So he was a total jerk to me, but from what everybody else, including Mitch Poole, said, he was a really cool guy, really nice guy, but for whatever reason, he did not like me, and I don't know why. So he was not a good experience. Our next is Jon Bernthal. Superstar actor. He's in too many things to even count. Walking Dead, The Punisher, all that stuff. Maybe one of my favorites ever. I had before I was vlogging, I had a catering job, and one of those jobs sent me out to Ojai, California, and it happened to be his surprise birthday party that his wife was throwing for him. And when I got there, they kind of told us that and everything. I'm like, oh boy, this can be like kind of a celebrity event, and you just never know how people will treat you. We had done other celebrities parties and they were really rude. Just really treat you like you're not even a person sometimes. So didn't really have high expectations. Before the party even started, he got there, realized what was going on, walked around to every single person working the party and personally went up, introduced himself, and thanked them for being a part of his party and for making his birthday something special. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, what a class act. I mean, he literally went around, made sure there was, like, looked at faces, made sure there was not one person that he forgot. Then, as the event goes on, all of a sudden I realized that a friend of mine is there who is one of his best friends. The guy, Sean Corgan, who is on, what was Days of Our Lives, or Young and the Restless, I think, Young and the Restless. Soap opera, and they're best friends, and he sees me, he's like, Jordan, what are you doing here? And I'm like, sheepishly and embarrassed. I'm like, I'm working. And he goes, have you met John yet? And I said, yeah. He came around and introduced himself to everybody that was working. He goes, no, you didn't get to meet him. He goes, let me take you over and introduce you as my friend. And so he takes me over in the middle of this party and, you know, whatever, I guess I'm supposed to be working. And he takes me over and introduces me to John. And he's like, hey, John, I know Jordan from the Comedy Store. And all of a sudden, John's eyes light up and he goes, whoa, man. He goes, you hang at the Comedy Store? He goes, man, I don't know how people that are in the comedy world, man, people blow my mind. He's like, and he starts talking to me like we're like an old friend or whatever. And I probably stood there and talked for like 5 minutes and then finally caught myself and I was like, hey, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm afraid I might get in trouble if I don't go back to my job because they might be wondering, you know. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, man. If they say anything, come find me. I'll vouch for you. I'll tell, you know. Then at the end of the night, he walked around and tipped like every single person like $100 in cash. So just a total class act. I don't have one bad thing to say. And in fact, they brought him up for a little speech for his birthday. And the first thing he said was like, thank you all for coming. And especially to my wife for sticking by me through thick and thin when I was doing plays where literally there were like 5 people in the room. She was there watching me, believing in me, and just came off like such a cool dude. And then even, I guess some of his neighbors called the cops because of the noise. And when they went to tell him, he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of this. The cops are always cool with me. And like he just goes out there, talks to the cops, and next thing you know, they're all like laughing and whatever. And he's like, hey, if you guys are getting off soon, come back and have a beer, you know, whatever. Like just totally nice guy. So John Bernthal, A+, man. Billy Corgan. I've met Billy Corgan twice. Both instances very bizarre. I met him once hours before an outdoor concert, a very small concert he was playing in Joshua Tree. And I was actually staying at the motel that was literally behind the stage. So when they went out there and started warming up and everything, this little side project he was doing, I just went out there and kind of started watching. He didn't really seem to mind. So my friend and I are out there watching. And when he had a break, he like kind of walked by me and I said, hey Billy, we have a mutual friend in common. And he kind of gave me like this weird, like, yeah, right look. And he's like, oh, who? And I said who it was, and he just like, he stopped and like lit up and he goes, wow, that is a name I haven't heard in a while. How are they doing? And I said, really good. And I started telling him everything. So he was somewhat kind of nice to me then. Played the show afterward. He's like in a corner out in public where everybody is, and all these people are lined up wanting to like get a photo with him, sign an autograph and stuff. And he's there and he's like ignoring them all, and then says like, give me some time to decompress and then I'll sign autographs. And he just kind of like sat there with all these people hovering over him for like 5 or 10 minutes. And it's just so uncomfortable and weird and everything. And then all of a sudden he just randomly goes, okay, I'll sign autographs now. And I had a CD that was like a bootleg of his demos. So I didn't think he was gonna wanna sign that. I had an LP and of Adore, because I love that album. Then I had a baseball. And I had seen him at the Metro right across from Wrigley Field, so that's why I had the baseball. I hand that to him, he goes, I don't sign stuff. He goes, I don't sign cell phone cases, baseball, stuff like that. If you have my record or my CD or whatever, I'll sign that. And I held up the 2 things I had, and he's like, yeah, I'll sign those. I'm like, okay. So then, take it back to like a year from now, and I'm in Chicago and I wanted to promote that he has this awesome tea house in Chicago, in Highland Park. So I go to vlog it, and while I'm in there, he comes in. And I didn't put him on camera. I actually heard him behind me and turned my camera off out as a courtesy, and then walked up to him and just said, and I was actually wearing an NWA wrestling shirt, which he owns. And so I said, hey Billy, I'm a big fan, you know, I love NWA, love what you're doing with it and everything. And he was like, okay, thanks. But not like friendly at all. And I was like, I said, I'm a traveling YouTuber. I'm just promoting your place. I hope that's cool. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I go, would you want to say anything about the place on the vlog? He goes, no, I don't do that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay. I said, would you mind if I took a picture with you? And he goes, I don't take photos here. I said, okay. And I was buying one of his records, so I had it under my arm. It was actually like $100 record. Really like it was something that only you can buy there. So I had that in my hand and I go, would you mind signing my record before I leave? He goes, that kind of falls in the category of I don't take photos here. He goes, and I don't mean to be a jerk, but if I do it for you and people find out, then people come here and they just hang out looking for me. And I don't want that to be this kind of place. I want people in the neighborhood to come hang out here and feel welcome. I don't want it to be just like a hangout for my fans. And trust me, I've been through this, it will. And I was like, okay, cool. So it had been really uncomfortable through that whole thing. And I was like, okay, well, one of my all-time favorite songwriters. And once again, this is like the second time I met him that it was really kind of a disappointment. And I could tell his wife, she works there. I could tell, she kind of could tell I was bummed or whatever. So before he walked away, I just said, one last question without annoying you. And he's like, what's that? I said, any chance I could schedule you for an interview and talk about NWA? And he goes, email this. And he gives me an address to email and says, you know, tell them that you met me here, send them your channel and stuff, and if they're interested, you know, we'll contact you. So I do that the next day and I immediately get a phone call. And they're like, hey, yeah, we're looking at your channel. You have great, you know, great content, great numbers. Billy would love to do it. He's really busy because he's got a podcast, he's doing shows, and then he's running this, you know, can you come to this show at this date? And I said, actually I can't because I already made a verbal commitment to film something else that day for my channel. And I just feel like that's bad karma to do it. And so I said, can I call you back at a future event? And they said, yeah, and we have your number, so we'll get something going. I've contacted them several times since then. And since that initial call when they were like, oh yeah, we'll definitely make it happen, everything, now they don't even, I can't get a response or anything. And I'm like, hey, all I want to do is promote your wrestling. On the other side, Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips. Awesome, awesome person. I have met him so many times. Every time I've met him, he's been friendly, outgoing, really cool, really nice. So about a year ago, I was traveling through Oklahoma City and I, last minute, as usual, like the day before, I just randomly go, hey, I know this is kind of crazy, but I should email their manager, because I kind of knew him years ago, and said, maybe, is there a way that I could hang out with Wayne and film a video about Oklahoma City, like tomorrow, or like 2 days from now? So I sent it, and the next day, I get a text message. Actually, first I get an email that says, hey Jordan, I sent your info over to Wayne. Highly unlikely he'll be able to do it because of his wife is pregnant and ready to give birth any day now. And with COVID and everything, like he may not want to take a chance and everything. So hope you won't be offended. Maybe we can do it in the future, but we'll see, never know. And I read that, and then right away my phone, I get a text message that says, hi Jordan, this is Wayne Flaming Lip. And so we start texting back and forth, and he's like, when are you available, today or tomorrow? I said, both, whenever you're available. He said, well, my wife's pregnant, and I'd love to do it. Let me just see what I can work out for us. And the day goes by, and I'm kind of like, oh man, I don't think it's gonna happen. And then like 5 o'clock, he goes, can you still do it tomorrow? And mind you, the next day was like Super Bowl Sunday, so I just kind of always figured nobody wants to do anything on Super Bowl Sunday. I said, yeah, I'm available if you are. And he said, okay, let's do it tomorrow. And sure enough, he met me down on Flaming Lips Alley in Oklahoma City, and he said, how much time do you think you would need, just out of curiosity? I said, 30 minutes would be great. And we did 30-minute interview. And my plan after that was never to bother him again, because guy was nice enough to do all that for me. Last thing I want to do is pester him. And kid you not, like 30 minutes after the interview, he sends me a text and is like, hey man, this is so fun hanging out with you and meeting you today. I'm so glad that we did it. And and like we have texted and been friends ever since. I can pick up my phone and text him now and I know he'll respond. So it's like, he was really cool. You never know with your people that you really are inspired by and stuff what you're gonna get. And like I said, nobody's entitled to any great experiences, but he was one of the best ever. Eddie Van Halen. I had a job where I ended up I delivered late night fitness meals for celebrities and kind of high dollar people that are on a fixed diet to lose weight for mostly TV, mostly movies, things like that. So one night they say, hey, we have a really important client. They have a stalker, so you're gonna have to go and deliver this up to their house, but you're gonna call the gate and a security guard will come out. And so the first night that I go up to do it, I ring the gate and the person says, okay, I'll be right out. And that security guard looked an awful lot like Eddie Van Halen in a white bathrobe, because that's who it was. Eddie Van Halen comes out and says, hey man, I'm so sorry about this. What's your name? And I said, Jordan. He's like, hey Jordan. He goes, I'm sorry about this. He goes, I got this crazy fan that, you know, she's been writing me fan letters for years and stuff, and kind of worries my wife. And we got, you know, so we always kind of keep an eye on her whereabouts. And she wrote a crazy letter saying she was coming out here, and then we got word that she did land on a plane here. So that's what this is all about. He goes, I don't think there's gonna be any problems, but you know, just for peace of mind for my wife, I want to do it. And I was like, no worries, man. I said, I totally understand. I said, if you don't mind me saying, I'm a huge fan. I was listening to Van Halen too today. And he goes, oh yeah? Well, if you want me to sign it, you know, like bring it on up, man, that's cool. And I was like, because my job, we weren't allowed to ask for autographs ever. And so the next night I show up and buzz the gate, and it's the security guard. So there was a security guard that comes out, and I have my stuff. I have like my pick guard off my guitar, and I have my Van Halen 2 album. And I met Eddie last night, and he told me like I could drop this stuff off and he'd sign it for me. He's like, I don't know anything about that. I was just told to take the food, but I'll be happy to take it for you. So he takes it and everything, and the next day I get a call at my job, or from my job, and they're like, hey, Eddie Van Halen's wife called and said Eddie had some stuff up there that you left to get signed and wanted to know how to spell your name. Obviously, I think you know that we don't allow that. And I said, well, I normally wouldn't do it, but he like, I said I was listening to his record, and he said, bring it on up. Like, I feel like I'd kind of be you know, kind of insulting or a liar if I didn't bring it up after he was nice enough to offer. And the guy at my work goes, I understand, we just don't want people asking. That being said, is there any way I could slide you a CD to get signed? And I'm like, you know, so anyway, Eddie signs all that stuff for me, and for like 2 weeks, I was delivering his food up there, and he would come out. That was the only time I ever met the security guard. Eddie would come out, and he would always light up a cigarette, and he would talk to me for the length of a cigarette. And I could just ask him anything, and because you know, I would say like, hey, you know, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this guy's playing? Or what kind of strings do you use on this? Or, you know, what do you think? I mean, anything I had a question about, he was super cool about. So Eddie Van Halen was like, I was so bummed when I heard about his passing, because he was such a down-to-earth, real guy. Really was. Joey Votto, first baseman for the Cincinnati Reds, future Hall of Famer, baseball player. Super nice guy. I've met him several times. He's always really nice, always has a great sense of humor. I think where it really started, I had met him in spring trainings and stuff, but I had read that he was a lifelong Lakers fan, and that when the Lakers won one of their championships, he had spent the money to go out and be there. And he was there for the last game when Kobe won like the championship and everything. And he said he wanted to be there because he wanted to like experience what it felt like to be in that environment, like for him someday to be there. And it was a really emotional thing for him. And I read in this interview where he also said like that was a thing him and his dad really shared, was this love of the Lakers, and especially like the Showtime Lakers. And then his dad had passed away like 2 years before. Well, I would, you know, frequently, like Jimmy Kimmel Live was kind of an easy place years ago to meet people if they wanted to sign autographs. There was kind of a path where they had an option to. And I went one day, I had a basketball, and Magic Johnson was the guest. So I went over there, and when Magic was done, he walked outside, and it was like December, and he goes, "Merry Christmas, everyone. Line up in a single file row. My man right here, my security guard, he's gonna look at your face. I'll sign one autograph for all of you. Merry Christmas." And that's what he did. So I had a basketball signed by Magic. And since I had Dodger season tickets, I kind of knew my way around there, and I knew everybody there, and I knew all the loopholes for the place. So I knew that during the day, you could go into the stadium and eat your lunch if you wanted, and they didn't really watch where you drove. So if you wanted, you could drive all the way around to the back where the outfield was, and that's where the players would park and walk in early in the day. So like if it was like a game at 7 at night, they would start showing up anywhere between like 1 and 2:30. And so one day I just went over there with my I got a Subway sandwich. That basketball, had it in a bag, and went in there and just sat in the stands, was eating my lunch, and saw all the Reds players walking in and everything. Joey Votto comes walking in. I just stood up and I said, "Hey Joey, I'm a big fan of yours, and I read this article about you and your dad loving the Lakers, and I got to meet Magic last year, and he signed a basketball for me. I'd like to give it to you if that's all right." And he was like, "What? Are you serious?" And I like show him. He was like speechless. He was like, "Wow." He's like, "What's your name?" Introduced himself and everything. He's like, "That's unbelievably kind of you." He goes, "That's really nice of you." He's like, "Is there anything I can do for you? Like, do you want anything in return?" I said, "No." I said, "Well, could I take a photo with you?" He's like, "Absolutely." So we took a photo, and I was wearing his jersey. So he's like, "Do you want me to sign your jersey or anything?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, if you don't mind." So signs a jersey and everything. And later on in the game, I ended up, after the game, I was walking out and his car was out there. Me and my friends, they were trying to get some of the other Reds autographs, and I didn't bother him. He was walking out and he's like, "Hey Jordan, thanks for that ball." And he actually had it in his hand. So I thought that was really cool. And then about a year later, when they came back through, after the game, everybody's out there waiting, trying to get autographs as he's leaving. And he says, "Hey guys, tonight I'm only signing autographs for kids." And my friend Will, who is with me, goes, "Hey Jordan, show him your Reds tattoo." And all of a sudden Joey goes, "What? Reds tattoo?" He goes, "Yeah, he's got a Reds tattoo." And he goes, "Okay, I'm signing for kids and Reds tattoos. If you got a Reds tattoo and you're an adult, come up and show me, I'll sign." So he's been always super cool. He'll probably retire within the next year or so. So he's always been cool. And even now, a lot of the times what he'll do is, if he has rehab assignment stuff, he'll sign baseballs and hide them all over the city of wherever he's playing and stuff. And he does that in Cincinnati too. He'll just kind of like sign stuff, baseball bats and stuff, and leave it in random places. And he's just trying to build up, the excitement for the team. So really cool guy, nice guy to meet. Ric Flair, one of my all-time favorites. Lifelong Ric Flair fan, always wanted to meet him. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm not going to mention anybody that I had to meet at like a paid signing, because I don't think that's a real grasp on meeting them. But I met him first at a signing, really had nothing to speak of because it was so rushed and everything. But I had found out that he was going to be at SneakerCon in Dallas, and I'd never been to SneakerCon, didn't really know if that was an autograph type thing, if he was gonna be just doing photos, if he was gonna be signing like a stock photo only or what. So I emailed the event and asked them, and they said, "No, he's gonna be signing autographs." And I said, "Okay, cool." Well, I decided I had a belt that I wanted to sign, and Damian Lillard put out a pair of Adidas shoes that were Ric Flair shoes. So I have a pair that I wear and a pair that were brand new I want to get signed. So I said, "Well, I'll take those shoes and I'll take that belt and I'll pay and get them signed, no problem." So I go to this thing, line up and everything, and then when Rick comes out, the guy at the front of the line says, "Okay, he's not signing autographs today, he's only gonna take photos." I'm like, what? I was like, I was in Georgia and drove from Georgia all the way to Dallas for this SneakerCon so I could get him to sign this stuff for me. Like, direct route, like the day before. So I was kind of bummed, and I just asked the guy, I said, since I was the front line, I said, "Are you sure?" I brought up the email, I go, "I have an email that says he's gonna sign autographs." And he goes, "Let me see it." So he takes it over to Rick's wife actually, and he comes back over and he goes, "Hey, don't say anything, but hang around when you're done with your photo for a second." I said, "Okay." So I take my photo with Rick, I go hang out off to the side, and then eventually his wife Wendy comes over and says, "Hey, I'm sorry." She goes, "Yeah, this was not one of those events that Rick was supposed to sign autographs, so he just got it in his mind already, he's not going to." But she goes, "Since they told you, and I see you at all kinds of stuff, I know your channel and I know you promote Rick, he'll sign your stuff before we leave. She goes, just wait till he's done taking photos and follow us backstage and he'll sign your stuff for you. I was like, super cool. So I'll say this about Ric Flair. This was a free thing where he was just taking photos with people. He loves it. He loves taking photos with people. He was having a great time. It was not like torture for him or anything. He loves meeting people. So when he gets done, she waves to me. She's like, come on, come on, come on. So we all go backstage and Rick goes, okay, let's go to the bar. Let's go to the bar. He's backstage. He's like, come on, where's the band? I want to get to the bar. And she goes, Rick, you got to sign some stuff first. He goes, sign some stuff? I'm not signing anything today. I told you that already. She goes, no, Rick, you got to. She goes, this guy is a big supporter of yours, and they told him that you were going to sign autographs. He goes, Wendy, I told other people no. And then he looks at me and he goes, you know what? I'll sign it. I said, I'm sorry, Rick. I said, I wouldn't even ask, but they emailed me and told me that, they were doing it. He goes, I don't have a problem signing your stuff. He goes, that's not the problem. He said, the problem is that I told other people earlier no, and it just makes me feel bad that I should have signed for them too, He said, it's just making me feel guilty. I said, I didn't want to do that at all. I said, like I said, I'll be happy to pay. He goes, no, I don't want any money. He said, what would you like me to sign? He signed everything. He even asked me, did I want it inscribed or anything? Did all that stuff. And then at the end I said, Rick, thank you so much. I know you made a special exception for this. You're a true treasure. And he goes, no, you are. Thank you for coming out and meeting me today. Thank you. And shook my hand. And I was like, man, that was a classy way of wrapping this all up. And I've met him since then, and he's always been cool. This was a brief one, but this was fun because he's kind of hard to meet. Dave Grohl. Way back in Los Angeles when there was Aaron's Records one day, I was in Aaron's Records shopping. Hardly anybody, like maybe 5 people in the store. 2 of those people happened to be Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins. And it was I think they had just put out the 3rd album. That tells you how far back that was, 2002, 2003. And I saw him and I go, hey, I read in an article that you're a big fan of Sparkle Horse. And he's like, oh yeah, big time. I go, yeah, me too, man. That's so cool. I said, you never hear anybody talk about Sparkle Horse. He kind of liked that, I think. And I said, would it be like a pain on your way out? I said, I have like a little legal pad. Would you sign an autograph for my guitar player? I said, he's one of your biggest fans. And because of your recording, I said, he loves the way that you record albums. He loves the actual sound and stuff. I go, it goes beyond your songwriting or your guitar playing. And he liked that. So he's like, yeah, sure. So I was paying, and we were walking up to pay, we were kind of in line at that time. So sure enough, he and Taylor both signed a little yellow piece of paper, and now he doesn't even sign autographs. Unless it's for charity, Dave just doesn't do that kind of stuff anymore. So he was really cool, and with Taylor Hawkins gone, it was kind of a really nice memory to get to meet them together. David Arquette. A lot of people don't even think about David Arquette, but David Arquette is one of the absolute best celebrities you can ever meet. I was a fan of David Arquette mainly because I mentioned that Road Racers movie that Kevin McCarthy made a cameo in. That was actually a Showtime movie that Robert Rodriguez directed with Selma Hayek, David Arquette. It's like a greaser movie. William Sadler's in it. Just all kinds of great people, and it's an amazing movie that a lot of people don't know about. I ran into David Arquette on the front patio of the Comedy Store one night, and it just so happens that the person that turned me on to Road Racers, my best friend Seth, it was his birthday that day, and he lived in Ohio. So I hated to be that guy, but it was what better opportunity, knowing I knew people that knew David Arquette, and they said, oh, he's the nicest guy in the world. So I see him and I start talking to him, get him laughing and stuff, joking with him about wrestling and stuff, and I go, David, I love Road Racers. And he goes, whoa. I go, Dude Delaney. And he goes, aha, Dude Delaney. That was his character's name. I go, hey, it's my best friend's birthday that turned me on to that. I go, I hate to be that guy, but could we call him and you do a Dude Delaney message? He's like, yeah, of course, man. So sure enough, he did it. We called my friend, left a message for him, totally. He's like, hey, Seth, this is Dude Delaney, David Arquette, just left this great message. And then maybe a year later, I was at the Buster Keaton mural ceremony where they were dedicating the corner where Buster Keaton Studios was with a plaque and a mural, and David Arquette was there, and I went up to him right before, like he was just there as a fan, but he was kind of like dressed up for the event, and I said, hey, David, when this is all done, any chance I could interview you for like 2 minutes about road racers? And he goes, yeah, dude, absolutely. And sure enough, when we were done, he was like looking around for me. He's like, hey, do you want to do it now before I take off? And I was like, yeah, and he totally did it. So if you look up on my channel, my Road Racers filming location video, at the very end, I put that interview with David Arquette. And he bought the rights to Bozo, so now he's gonna bring Bozo the clown back and stuff. He's just a cool dude and super nice guy. I can't even begin to tell you. I think I've met him 4 or 5 times, and every time he's been super cool and super nice. My pal Shelly Winners. I met Shelly Winners when I was working for a delivery food service, trying to get by. I had a band, and I was just trying to make a living during the day so that I could perform and stuff at night. And one day I had a delivery to the rehab hospital she was in, and she had got pneumonia and had it for so long that she had lost the ability to walk. So she was there to relearn how to walk. And for whatever reason, when I walked in, she really liked me and just said like, honey, you have the most beautiful hair I've ever seen on a man. And she said, you don't even know who I am, but I was a big actress in my day and a teacher. And I said, I know who you are. I had seen her name on the entry to the door, and we just started talking about old movie history and cinema and stuff. And she told me that she got really lonely in there, and she's like, do you mind like coming back and visiting me and keeping me company sometimes? So I said, sure. So I started doing that. Where the hospital she was in was literally a 10-minute walk from my job, and I could catch the bus home from there. I didn't have a car at the time. Well, I had a car. I got a car because of her. Some friends of hers actually got me a car. But at the beginning, I didn't have a car, and there was nowhere to park it anyway where I worked. So I would just take the bus and everything. And yeah, I ended up going over and visiting her, befriending her for the last 2+ years of her life. And she was really comfortable being in that rehab hospital. But I got her like all pumped up one day, and I was like, it'd be great to have a birthday party and see your house and everything. Don't you want to go home sometime? And she got to thinking about it and finally got her guardian to agree, like if you can get well enough to walk and go home, you can throw your birthday party. So that's what eventually ended up getting her to go home, and we were friends for years. She always treated me great, never a negative word, never a mean comment. Pretty much like a grandmother to me. So I know a lot of people have not great stories about her, but then, I'll make videos telling my stories, and I'll see people saying like, oh, I met her once here and I met her once here and she was awesome. She talked to me for an hour. So everybody's, experience will be different sometimes, but my experience with her was really good. She was always super nice. Johnny Galecki, Christmas Vacation, he was Rusty in that. And then of course, Big Bang Theory. I was working as an extra on Big Bang Theory, trying to get my 3rd SAG voucher so I could join the Screen Actors Guild Union. Got a call that I matched a description for someone that they could use. And that would have been my 3rd voucher. And you got paid a higher rate too. So I called and signed up, got that job. And that particular day was their filming day. So that was like Friday, that's the long day. They filmed the entire show with a live audience and everything. So there just happened to be a point where there was so much dead time, they said like, hey, background actors, we're not gonna need you for like at least an hour and a half. So I went outside and was just screwing around on the lot, literally just like, I think I was smoking a cigarette or something at the time, because I did smoke. And I think I was smoking a cigarette, and all of a sudden, the door opens and Johnny Galecki comes out with a security guard, and he lights up a cigarette, and he's out there just like smoking and like looking at the ground. And me not knowing actually any better, I go, hey Johnny, I gotta tell you something. And I walk over there and I said, hey, I was friends with Shelly Winners before she passed, and she used to tell me how much she loved working with you on Roseanne. I said, you know, she did tell, like I would ask her like what she thought about Roseanne, and I said whenever I would say anything, she would always say she loved John Goodman, and she said, and she loved you because she could tell that you were gonna be a real actor someday, and that you were really sweet, and that you seemed to want to learn when people wanted to give you instruction. And he was like, oh wow, he's like, thank you, that's so sweet of her, you know? All of a sudden, the security guard, he had been like off like 10 feet. I don't know if he's on his phone or what he was doing, but all of a sudden he like comes running over and he's like, hey, you can't talk to him, you can't bother him, leave him, you're gonna have to go over here. And all of a sudden Johnny's like, no, it's okay, it's okay. Well, what I realized was that Johnny was actually out there smoking a cigarette, and probably what he was doing was running his lines, and that security guard was stopping me from bothering him from running his line. So he totally was right to do it. But I just was like, you know, when will I ever see this guy again? Maybe, you know, then that really was something that Shelly said. You know, she said like, she thought that the girl that played Becky, Lacey Gornzum, could have been a great actress, but that she, you know, had a boyfriend or something that she was too caught up in or something, didn't want to be, didn't care enough about it to be dedicated. And she thought that was unfortunate. And so she would just tell me different things about people, and so I wanted to relate it to him. And I told him then, I was like, yeah, I said, you know, I've met you before. I used to work for Jerry's Deli, and I delivered to you up at your house, and you were really nice to me then too. He's like, oh, really? He goes, I wonder which house that was. And I said, we had a big picture of Miles Davis up, and he goes, oh, I know exactly where that was then. So, but yeah, he was really cool. And then the last person I would mention, my buddy Eric Singer, the drummer of Kiss. Maybe the most humble guy I know, just a really average, regular Joe behind the scenes, does not care about fame or anything like that, sees himself as an everyday dude. And basically how I ended up knowing, meeting, and befriending him was that somebody that watched my channel was friends with him and invited me to an event that he was gonna be at. And so I went to film it and everything. And Eric kind of saw what I was doing, and then, you know, one day I was just talking to him, he's like, hey, you're like MacGyver. He goes, like, with what you do on your YouTube channel, he's like, you turn nothing into something. He's like, that's really cool. He's like anybody in the world could get a camera and start a YouTube channel, but they don't. And you did it, and you've been successful, and you're motivated, and you work hard and everything. So he was looking over my channel at one point and saw that I went to Auschwitz, and Gene Simmons' mother was in Auschwitz. So he sent me a message. This was before we were friends really, and just said, can you send me the link to your Auschwitz video? And I said, well, I actually have two. And I sent him both. And then he wrote back and said, hey, if you're interested, Gene said that it would be okay for you to come out on tour with us. We can't guarantee that, you know, band participation in the videos because we have very busy schedules, but we have some ideas that we think you might enjoy, you know, and to their credit, I've been out with them 4 or 5 times on this tour, this last tour, and they've given me access. And what else? In fact, Paul hired me to film behind the scenes when he was making a video for his Soul Station project. So a lot of great things have come out of it. And yeah, Eric's just like one of my better friends, one of the nicest people I know. And for a band as big as Kiss, even though, you know, a lot of people always want to say, well, he's not the original member. Look at the Rolling Stones. How many original members there are there? 2. Nobody ever says that about them. Truth is, Eric's been playing with that band for over 20 years, almost 25 years. So he's actually been the drummer in Kiss longer than anyone else in Kiss. So yeah, I give him a lot of props. And he's a nice guy, great person, and those are my celebrity stories.